Glorious devotees, thank you for viewing this presentation on Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sri Madhurya Kadambini, the monsoon clouds of sweetness. This presentation will deal with the conclusion of Sri Madhurya Kadambini, dealing with Prema-bhakti. Vishwanath writes, furthermore, although there is an abundance of scriptural evidence pertaining to the characteristics and the visible symptoms of ruchi, asakti, bhava, and prema, such evidence has not been cited herein. Dependence on scriptural evidence tends to disrupt the flow of direct experience. Nevertheless, we shall present those verses here for those who would like to see them. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence for ruchi. Sri Narada Muni said to Sri Vedavyas, O intelligent one, by staying in the association of great souls who devoutly sing the pastimes of Sri Krishna, and by continuously hearing with faith their charming narrations about him, my taste, ruchi, for him awoke. My intelligence became fixed on the enchanting glories of Parabrahma Sri Krishna. And through this intelligence, I could understand that this subtle and gross body should be engaged only in service to him. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence for asakti. Sri Kapila-dev explained to Mother Devahuti, it is accepted that the mind is the cause of the jiva's bondage and liberation. When the mind is engrossed in material objects, it is the cause of bondage, and when it is deeply attached, asakti, to Sri Krishna, it is the cause of liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence for prema. Sri Narada Muni said to Sri Vedavyas, O great sage, at that time, completely overwhelmed by prema, the hairs on my body stood on end, and my heart became extremely peaceful and cool. I was submerged in that flood of bliss to such an extent that I lost all awareness of both myself and the object of my meditation, Bhagavān. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence for the anubhavas of ruchi. Sri Narada said to King Prachini-Barhi, O King, in the association of great souls who are addicted to singing the pastimes of Bhagavān, the many rivers of Sri Madhusudana's nectarean pastimes flow in all four directions. Those who, with attentive, insatiable ear cups, drink those streams of nectar cannot be touched by hunger, thirst, fear, lamentation, and delusion. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence to a sporti of Bhagavān. Sri Narada Muni said to Sri Vedavyas, when I sing of the pastimes of Sri Bhagavān, whose lotus feet are the source of all holy places, and whose glorification is most dear to me, he immediately reveals himself as if summoned. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence in regards to a direct darshan of Bhagavān. Lord Kapila-dev said to his mother Devahuti, O mother, my devotees are always seeing my beautiful and benevolent transcendental forms, which are endowed with eyes the color of the rising sun and a charming lotus face. The devotees lovingly converse with these various forms which are hankered for by great ascetics. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence. Sri Kapila Dev said, O Mother, the mind and senses of my devotees are completely absorbed in the sweetness of my divine forms, whose limbs are attractive, whose smiles are playful and wide, whose glances are charming, and who speak sweetly. Although my devotees do not desire to achieve the supreme destination, my divine abode, their Prema-bhakti to me enables them to do so. Srimad Bhagavatam provides the following evidence. Just as a drunkard may have no awareness of whether he is dressed or not, so a devotee who has received direct darshan of Bhagavān is not conscious of whether his body, as a result of his previous deeds, is standing or sitting, nor does he notice when, by providence, he leaves one body and takes birth in another. Indeed, he pays no heed to the activities of the perishable body. These confirmations from Scripture can be researched and carefully deliberated upon. Some commentary in this regard. Scriptural evidence for ruchi, asakti, and so forth. By performing bhajana of Sri Hari, the devotees of Bhagavān gradually turn these two functions of the false ego, I and mine, toward the service of the Lord. When one's sense of ahamta becomes, I am a servant of Sri Hari, and one's sense of mamata becomes, Sri Hari is mine, it is called prema. This prema is the fifth and highest attainment for the jiva. Sri Vishwanath continues, Now, the sequence in which I and mine disengage from worldliness and engage in transcendence is described. As long as a material sense of I and mine remains extremely thick, one's fate will be to remain in material existence. But if by chance a speck of Shraddha appears in a person in such a condition, and he thinks, I shall become a Vaishnav, and Prabhu Sri Bhagavān will be the object of my service, then a scent of spiritual disposition will manifest, and one will become qualified for bhakti. Thereafter, this scent of spiritual disposition will become stronger through sadhu sangha. At the beginning of anista bhajana kriya, this sense of I and mine is engaged in spiritual reality only partially, and its absorption in materiality is complete. With the awakening of nista, one's sense of I and mine in relation to spiritual reality is extensive, while absorption in materiality is almost complete. When ruchi awakens, one's sense of I and mine in relation to spiritual reality is almost complete, whereas it is only partial in relation to worldly matters. When asakti awakens, one's sense of I and mine in relation to spiritual reality is complete, and only the mere scent of it remains in relation to a worldly conception. At this stage of bhava, one's sense of I and mine in relation to spiritual reality is absolute, achantiki, and the apparent continuation of that sense in relation to worldliness exists only as a semblance, abhas. Finally, at the stage of prema, the topmost goal, one's sense of I and mine in relation to spiritual reality is supremely absolute, parama-achyantiki, without the slightest trace of materiality. Similarly, at this stage of bhajana kriya, meditation on Bhagavān is momentary and tainted by worldly topics. At the stage of nistha, a semblance of worldly concerns remains in one's meditation. When ruchi awakens, meditation is free from any worldly topics and continues for prolonged periods. When asakti develops, meditation becomes extremely deep. At the stage of bhava, a vision of the Lord, Bhagavat Spurti, is experienced as soon as one begins to meditate. At the stage of prema, the devotee has an even more extraordinary vision of Bhagavān than before, and finally he receives direct darshan of Bhagavān. May this Madhurya Kadambini, which has drawn its torrents of rasa from nectarean ocean of charming sweetness, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, satisfy the whole creation. Vrajendra-nandana Śrī Kṛṣṇa is the emporium of all rasas, akhila-rasāmṛta-mūrti. To satisfy his unfulfilled desires, instigated by his relishing, the prema of Śrimatī Rādhārāṇī, in his Vraj pastimes, Sri Krishna accepted the mood, bhava, and complexion, kānti, of Śrimatī Rādhikā, the embodiment of prema, and descended in the form of Śacīnandana Śrī Gaurahari. Śrī Gaurasundara, the ocean of nectarean sweetness, is indeed the most astonishing combination of the ocean of rasa and the ocean of prema. The full waves of Mādhurya-rasa forever swell within him in their completeness. It is only by tasting the rasa of the ocean of his sweet pastimes that the topics described in this Madhurya Kadambini are realized. By regularly putting into practice with devotion the topics in this book, the sādhaka-bhakti can easily traverse the various obstacles to bhajana, such as aparādha and the desire for wealth, worship, and prestige, and achieve prema. In this way, by relishing the Madhurya of Bhagavān, his life is forever blessed and fulfilled. Of this there is no doubt. In concluding this book, the most revered Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur showers his mercy and blessings upon the entire world, saying, by the compassion of Śrī Gaurasundara, may this Madhurya Kadambini, which has arisen from the ocean of his transcendental pastimes, thoroughly cool and completely satisfy the inhabitants of this world with its shower of nectar. Thus ends the 8th shower of nectar, absolute fulfillment of the soul's yearning. Thus ends Śrī Madhurya Kadambini. I thank you so much for viewing this presentation on Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Śrī Madhurya Kadambini. I hope it has deepened your spiritual understanding and nourished your spiritual practice. Hare Krishna.